welcome. My name is Su-Ling Ching, and it is my honor to be the President and CEO of the Ottawa Board of Trade. We are the voice of business and a key advocate for economic growth in our nation's capital. Our mission is to cultivate a thriving, world-class business community, one that drives community prosperity and an inclusive and sustainable economy. Thank you for joining us today for Build Up Ottawa, our priority-setting interview with local candidates representing each party during the Ontario election 2022. Our purpose is to share the priorities of the business community with the candidates and to learn about their priorities so that we can look for alignment. I'm joined this morning by David Coletto, who is the director for the Ottawa Board of Trade, the founder and CEO of Abacus Data, which is a leading Canadian market research firm headquartered here in Ottawa. David has been leading a group of volunteers and members and working with Spark Advocacy to design the Build Up Ottawa top 5 priorities. You can learn more at buildupottawa.ca or go to our website at ottawabot.ca. Now it's my pleasure to welcome David Coletto.
Hi, Su-Ling. How you doing?
Hi, David. I'm great. Thank you.
Great to see you. Well, I am really honored and pleased to welcome Michelle Petersen to our conversation today. She is the Green Party of Ontario candidate in Orléans. Michelle, welcome.
Hi, David. Hi, Su-Ling. Thanks for having me.
Nice to see you. We'll get right into it. As Su-Ling mentioned, we at the Ottawa Board of Trade released our top 5 priorities that we'd like to see elected officials in our community champion at Queen's Park if they're elected. And so we ask you, what are your top priorities for the Ottawa region as you seek public office?
Sure. For Greens across the province, we have 3 key messages. So we're looking to build a caring society, connected communities, and invest in a new climate economy. And how that would apply here in Ottawa, when we talk about a caring society, it's really about making Ottawa a sustainable and vibrant community to make sure that it benefits all people, where everyone has access to safe, affordable homes, access to health, and including mental health care. When we talk about connected communities, I'm thinking of the LRT immediately, but we want to put Ottawa on the map and making it an even more desirable place for people to visit and to live, having innovative urban planning, 15-minute communities, making it easy to walk and bike. And in the new climate economy, Greens are looking to make what's happening with the climate change and climate crisis a business opportunity to create jobs, to attract new businesses, to boost the economy. So we want to make Ottawa a leader in the new clean tech and innovation economy as well.
Thank you, Michelle. Now, affordable housing, both market pricing and social housing, is a top issue for us for attracting talent and creating an inclusive and competitive city. What are your party's plans to address this in the short and the long term?
Well, housing is one of the key priorities for Greens. For me, I've worked in social services for 20 years and I'm a single mom as well, so I fully understand the urgency of addressing the housing crisis. It's increasingly unaffordable and I've been hearing it on almost every door I've knocked on, to be honest. Greens really want to make the links between things like trauma and mental health, addiction and homelessness. So we definitely support a housing first approach because without a safe and stable place to call home, nobody can truly get back on their feet. So past governments have watched the problem get worse and worse, and we have a plan that unlocks solutions by building things like triplexes, fourplexes, mid-rise apartments, and to restore protections for renters too. So we're going to work with the nonprofit sector to build 182,000 deeply affordable community housing and rental units. But we're also going to invest in 60,000 affordable housing units, but also have full wraparound mental health services. And we're also looking at investing in community housing and rental houses and funding an Indigenous-led community housing strategy. So there's a really multi-dimensional approach to facing the housing crisis. But we really ultimately want to create communities with housing that's affordable and accessible for everyone, so everyone has a place to call home.
Thanks, Michelle. If you talk to business leaders, anyone leading a team, frankly, in our community across the province, ensuring access to talent and labor in areas that have existed in forecasted shortages is critically important to the success of businesses and broader economic growth. We know it's a complex issue, but are there things that, the Green Party are thinking about or will do to ensure that we don't fall behind and we have access to the skills and talent we need to continue to grow?
I think that's an excellent question. It's definitely a complex one too. And something I really appreciate about the Greens vision is that it's a vision for me that really connects the dots. So we can't talk about housing without talking about homelessness or without talking about mental health. We can't talk about having talent stay in Ottawa without addressing the affordability crisis. Ottawa is the national capital, and I feel like we should be able to keep our talent here that's born and raised here, but we should also be able to attract talent from all over the world. It's a beautiful city. We're surrounded by all sorts of green space, rivers, wetlands, farmlands. So there's no reason why we can't build a vibrant community that attracts and retains talent. And I think it's about really investing in the community. So doing things like building 15-minute communities is a way to make our community just that much more enjoyable to be in, to have access to nature, to have access to local shops and support small businesses within that 15-minute community. It's all ways that build the, I want to say the pleasure, just the experience of going from neighborhood to neighborhood and enjoying each unique little neighborhood for what it's worth.
Now, as you probably well know, many businesses, especially small businesses and those in the hardest hit sector, have been challenged these last 2 years with a lack of revenue and accumulating debt. So now they're facing rising costs, supply chain issues, labor shortages, and really no immediate relief in sight. We need to address new customer and employee trends, as well as digitization and competition. What does your party plan to do to drive business, inspire confidence, innovation, and productivity?
I agree. This is such a big priority. I live in Orléans, but I also work downtown in the Byward Market, and I continue on a regular basis to feel a little bit heartbroken every time I see another business that's closed, or I go to an old favorite restaurant only to find that it's closed down during the pandemic. So it's really affected communities across the province. So Ontario Greens are really committing to, again, creating vibrant neighborhoods, strong local economies, and helping diverse local businesses recover and thrive. So we want to undertake a review of regulations in order to weed out the red tape and costs that disproportionately affect small businesses. It's something I've heard a lot from local businesses. We also want to create and enforce rent control guidelines so that it's easier for tenants as well. And we're looking at expanding programs for marginalized communities like the Black, Indigenous, and other racialized entrepreneurs to help them start and grow their businesses.
I appreciate that. Many of those small businesses in hard-hit sectors are in tourism, hospitality, and food service. But those businesses are a major economic driver in our region, particularly in Ottawa. What would your party do to help Ottawa as a gateway city to remain competitive and support long-term economic recovery through the visitor economy?
So that's a great question as well. I'm happy to say that just on Wednesday, our leader, Mike Schreiner, released our Ontario Greens Main Street strategy, and it includes a component to expand the digital Main Street program. We want to include nonprofits in that as well. But we're also looking at supporting additional funding and expansion on the staycation tax to ensure it includes dining at restaurants, for example. Again, it's just wanting to draw people back out. I think we've been isolated for too long, and we need to get back into the habit of connecting with people out in the community. We're also looking at changing certain regulations to allow boutique wine, craft beer, and artisan spirit retail outlets to open legally, and including independent offsite stores opened by craft producers. I know that in Orleans, there's a lot of craft breweries popping up, so it's something that's really interesting for our community.
Thanks, Michelle. So now some quick fire questions for you. So if you could just let us know whether you support or oppose it. If you want to say a few words in support of it, please go ahead. We've got two in specific, and they relate to two large capital projects. So do you support or oppose finishing and funding phase 3 of the light rail transit system that would connect Canada and Barrhaven to the rest of the city to support our climate and inclusivity agenda, while making Ottawa more attractive to investment and talent?
So for me, that one's easy. Absolutely. It's a no-brainer for Greens. It really aligns with the Greens vision for investing in green infrastructure, and it makes our community, our city grow, be more accessible, more affordable, sorry, and just more enjoyable to get around as well.
And what about delivering the necessary capital funding to build the new Ottawa Civic Hospital campus, which they've planned to be a state-of-the-art healthcare facility to ensure that our growing city, one of the fastest growing cities in the country, is well served and healthy while attracting businesses and residents seeking good health services?
So I'll be honest with you, this is a trickier question for me. I know we've been waiting for a long time for this campus, and on one hand, Greens fully support investing in healthcare. So we're going to invest in new and expanded hospitals. They're so needed and so overdue in so many of our urban centers and across the province. And at the same time, the area where I hesitate is where I've heard reactions from the Ottawa Aboriginal Coalition, where they've expressed frustrations about the decision-making process by the city, particularly that decisions were advanced during the time of the occupation, when their services were really overwhelmed responding to the needs of their community members. So while I support the project, I also feel like it's important to underline the importance of proper public consultation and community consultation, because it's important to understand that consultation and respecting Indigenous voices is not red tape. So that's the only nuance I want to bring there.
Okay. Yeah, and maybe just to follow up there, if that consultation process, continues and is in your eyes successful, and everybody's been consulted, and you were elected as a Green MPP in Queen's Park, would you advocate for that capital funding to get that project completed?
Yes, absolutely. I think we're talking, we are committed to increasing hospital funding, because we've seen the impacts of the lack of investment over the year and how that just revealed such massive cracks in the system through the pandemic. So the Greens are committed to increasing year-over-year hospital-based operating funding to a minimum of 5%. But we also want to work with the federal government to provide for this surge in funding to reduce the backlog in surgeries, imaging, and all those other services that people are waiting for. And it's really having devastating impacts on a lot of people's health.
Well, I've got one more question for you. It's the why question. So why should business owners, Ottawa Board of Trade members, other leaders across our city consider voting for the Greens?
Yeah, it's a question I get all the time knocking on doors that always makes me smile, because I'm often asked, Greens aren't expected to be in power in the next election. So what's the point? Why elect one Green MP? But I really think the Greens have a visionary plan. And what we're bringing forward for this election around affordability, health, including mental health, climate action, is really key. And it's just so important at this point in time after the pandemic and with what's happening with climate change. And Greens across the province are really amazing candidates. We have such a diverse slate of candidates who are committed, passionate people, and who are people like Mike Schreiner, who don't hesitate to speak up and represent their constituents. We're people who are really full of integrity and honesty in politics for the right reasons. And we're really pushing other parties to do the right things. I mean, when I think about mental health, I'm a former psychotherapist. I've worked in mental health and social services. The fact that we put forward a mental health strategy is making people talk about mental health through this election. So it's taking mental health out of the shadows and really making it a key issue so that we're addressing the mental health crisis, because it's not acceptable for our children and youth to be on wait lists for 18 to 24 months. It's not acceptable for people to be worried about where they're going to live. So there's so many key important issues, and I really feel like we have a plan that, again, like I said earlier, connects the dots to all these different issues and inspires hope for future generations. It's time for new solutions to the old problems, and I really believe that for the Ontario you want and with the leadership we need, it's time to vote Green.
Well, Michelle, thank you so much for taking the time today. I know you're super busy, and we really do appreciate you sharing a little bit of time and your insights into your priorities and how they might align with our community and our business members. Also want to thank you for putting your name forward and running for office. We need more people to do that, and it's been a real pleasure to meet you. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in to watch this conversation. We encourage you to be involved, not just vote, but share your views, amplify the messages you hear today, and really help us as the Board of Trade, tell the story about Ottawa and our need to build it up, and the agenda behind it.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Michelle, as well. We really appreciate your putting your name up. Leadership matters, policy matters to the future of our city, and we all have a terrific opportunity right in front of us to be a part of what that future looks like for today and for the next generation.
So on June 2nd, let's get out there, vote, and let's build up Ottawa together. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.